What's up, Disc Priests? Flintoid here with another video. Today we're going to be doing Darkheart Thicket. This is just a random heroic, so it's going to be pretty much a face roll. So during this video, because it's not going to be very interesting to just watch me face roll this entire thing, I'll preview some boss mechanics, and then, oh my gosh, that guy stood in the AoE. So, and then I'll be talking about our raid strat a little bit, what we're going to be doing for Legion, and why Disc Priest is going to be important to have in your raid, even though people don't think it's the best healer right now. Oh my, am I about to do the same thing? Holy crap.
Those who challenge me only speed themselves to an agonizing death.
So Disc Priests right now have a pretty weird spot. They're definitely, if you've tried Disc Priests on live, as in Warlords of Draenor, not quite Warlords or Legion yet, they're not nearly as good as they are after they get their artifact weapon, after they get some gear. So in Legion, you're going to be running like more haste, more versatility, more crit, less mastery if you can avoid it. But in Warlords of Draenor, it was like strictly mastery, spam as much haste as you can after that, crit's pretty decent. So now, like, all all of the tributes and stuff are all messed up as far as what you should be maxing and what you should be going for trait-wise, so it's a lot different, and it runs a lot smoother in Legion. So, to talk about Disc versus other classes, Disc is a class that is good at DPS, but not great. Like, it's not going to be able to replace a DPS in your raid, just straight up. I would say that a great DPS versus a great Disc Priest, the Disc Priest is probably going to do about, if they're just DPSing the entire time, they'll do about half their DPS. If they're healing and DPSing, I'd say they'll do about a third. So they're not great at DPSing, they're just good. They'll keep up with tanks for the most part, sometimes. Some fights they won't, some fights they will. And then they're also not great at at healing either. So all other classes throughput healing is just like realistically so much better, right? So single target healing, they're not great, they're just good. AoE healing, they're not great, they're just good. Damage mitigation, they're slightly above good, not great. So why even bother bringing a Disc Priest to your raid? So the reason they're so valuable is because they are average at everything, or just good at everything. In a fight, fights are going to fluctuate, so you're going to need more damage at certain points, you're going to need more AoE healing at certain points, you're going to need more single target healing at certain points, and Disc Priests are good at supplementing those other healers and DPS with all of these things. Whereas other healers, for example, let's say Resto Shaman, right? Like they're going to be able to AoE heal pretty decently. They have immense utility as far as, you know, their totem and their SLT, Spirit Link totem. But like let's say it's single target healing, the tank's just getting trucked. Well, they're not going to be able to contribute as well as a Disc Priest. Even though they're better at throughput healing and AoE healing, like Disc Priests can still compete in that aspect against that class. So they'll be able to supplement the healing on that. Let's say that, because almost no boss, let's say that you have 4 healers in your main raid, or 5 healers in your main raid, almost no boss takes a perfect 5 healers to heal the entire fight. There's just no such thing, unless your healers are either really bad or you're actually overhealing the boss. So Disc Priests kind of fill that DPS gap where it's, you know, it's awkward to have another healer overhealing, wasting their mana, or just like standing there because they don't want to waste their mana. But at the same time, you know, they feel like they need to be doing something. So the Disc Priest kind of fills that gap where instead of 4 healers, you need 3.5 for this moment of time. So now you have 3.5 healers for that moment of time. Or let's say you need, and then all of a sudden the burst happens in a boss fight and you need 4 healers. Well, now they're going to be able to supplement, they're going to be able to switch like the rotation up literally within 5 seconds and go from, you know, a DPS class, like a quasi DPS class, to now a quasi AoE healing class, or a quasi single target healing class. So even though they're that good at one thing, they're okay at everything, which is what their specialty is. They are a jack of all trades and a master of none. So that is why I think Disc Priests fit in so well with this new meta coming in. They're such a support class now to not just healing but DPS and tanks too. They have pain suppression, which is one of, if not the best healing single target mitigation that like externally you can apply to someone. They have barrier, which is one of, not the best, but one of the best AoE mitigations. One of the only AoE mitigations that people can have. I think warriors have it, and then, you know, I'm not sure if polypallies still have their AoE mitigation, but so they can provide that utility too. So Disc Priests are just going to be really good at filling in what you're missing at any point in a fight, and that's their value. People are going to look at the numbers, and between you and me, I think that people are going to be upset with the numbers because they're not going to understand this. They're not going to understand that, yeah, all times you're not going to be the best healer, and you're not going to have great damage and great healing at all times. But hey, that mitigation you provided and those bubbles from Rapture spam, because you know burst is coming 15 seconds ahead of time, that saved the raid during that moment, because you were able to switch from a throughput healer to a damage dealer to a bubble spammer within the window of 15 seconds. That's just something that no other healer can offer, no other class can offer to a raid, honestly.
A pity you have come this far only to die at the hands of Saviors.
An empty threat. You hold no sway over this realm, Nightmare Lord.
Man, these dungeons are so cool. Like this design, every dungeon is so unique. What's not unique though is just mass AoE ads. God, every dungeon feels like they just have so much AoE ads. Holy crap. Let me think. What is a Disc Priest's worst, like, biggest weakness? I'm gonna say a Disc Priest's biggest weakness, in a dungeon setting anyway, is constant AoE damage. Constant AoE damage. They have a really easy time, like, sustaining people at a certain HP, but then there just becomes a point where if the damage is so bursty, so constant in AoE, that it just starts to overtake them. People just slowly tick down to 0%. Yeah, I would say that's, oh no, I fucked up. I would say that's their biggest crutch. But again, they're supplemental raid healers. They're undervalued in dungeon setting too, because you don't always need the hardcore healing. Like, for example, we outcure this so much, and I've been damaging this entire time, barely paying attention to what's going on. And if, let's say, Mistweaver Monk or a Holy Pally is in here, they're not going to contribute to damage. They're going to be useless. It's going to be boring. But now I'm I'm beating this Warlock. I'm contributing, because what we need right now is DPS. We don't need extra throughput healing, and Disc Priest can provide that. So actually, for progression, so US last season, or last tier anyway, in Draenor Hellfire Citadel, our guild ended US 51, and we have some better people now, and our healers are just on point. I wasn't there for most of the progression, any of the progression really, and then so now we have just a stacked healing core, stacked DPS core. Our tanks are on point. We're gonna kill it, and the GM has decided that we're gonna stick with, because he thinks that priests are gonna be that valuable, that we're gonna stick with a double priest, holy paladin, shaman comp. So that's our healing comp for Legion, and the idea is that myself and the holy priest, myself and the priest, rather, the other priest, we're going to switch off between Disc and Holy for when it's needed. So for when we need more of one or the other. So in most fights, we're going to be using Disc Priest, Holy Priest. But let's say a fight is just like constant AoE damage, and 2 Holy Priests would just be insane for it. Well, now we have a second Holy Priest. Or let's say we just need to 3 heal something, and we need more damage to push something. Now we can have double Disc Priest. So I think that was a good call on the GM's part to have us kind of switch off like that. Now, he is a much better Holy than I am, and I'd like to think that I'm a much better Disc than he is. So our healing comp is Shaman, which he was US 1 last season, for parsing wise. So I'm talking about like top end parsing, what your best was. He was US 1, our Holy Pally was US 3, our Holy Priest was US 11, I believe, and then I was US 14, so our healing core is just stacked. I think that we're going to be doing really well, and we mesh really well together. So I'm really excited for Legion healing, Legion Disc. It's really exciting. So I'm going to proc Light's Wrath here, and as Light's Wrath traveling, I'm going to plea a target so I get an extra 10% on Light's Wrath. So for this dungeon, I wasn't really paying attention, but I should have picked Purge the Wicked. There's just low amount of damage going out. When there's a low amount of damage or people are super overgeared, you should be picking Purge the Wicked to help with damage, right? So that's your job now, is if there's not enough healing, or too much healing, or healing isn't a necessary part, you should be playing the damage roll. Cool. So you get a lot of artifact power from these dungeons. I also have a really high artifact knowledge, but heroic dungeons are really nice for getting artifact power. Mythic more so, of course, but heroic's like a nice filler. So that's it. That was Darkheart Thicket. Darkheart Thicket, right? Yep, Darkheart Thicket on heroic. Just messing around, just talking about Disc Priests, where they fall at in a raid. I'm excited for them. They're an excellent class to play. People are going to be upset. I know they're going to be upset because they're going to feel like they're doing poor in damage and poor in healing, but they've just got to understand that in fights there's times where you need to damage and times where you need to heal, and you just need to fluctuate before. I don't really approve of these things that are going around that, oh, Disc Priest should be 70% at all times of the other healer, below the next healer, or Disc Priest should be 50% of the best DPS, or Disc Priest should be beating the tanks every time, because that's not always true. Like, you're going to be switching up your role mid-fight, on, you know, whether or not they need damage, AoE. It's just crazy the amount of flexibility that is in Disc right now, and I think that's the defining feature of Disc is how flexible they are. Alright, thanks for watching. This was my sort of ramble about why I think Disc Priests are going to fit into a raid really well.